The morning air was soft, cool, and peaceful. As the big yellow school buses rumbled to a stop outside Northridge High, leaves, golden and crisp, drifted lazily across the sidewalk, dancing in little swirls, as if nature itself was taking its time to wake up. Inside the school, the halls were alive, noisy, filled with familiar voices, sneakers tapping, lockers slamming, and the hum of teenagers settling into another ordinary day. But today, someone very different stepped through the tall glass doors. A quiet black girl. Her name was Amara Jordan. Her steps were light, steady, like soft whispers against the cold tiled floor. Her braids rested neatly on her shoulders. Her uniform was simple, clean, but her eyes held a quiet strength, as though they'd seen more than this noisy hallway could ever understand. No one knew her yet. No one knew her story, and Amara liked it that way. She wasn't interested in making friends or drawing attention. She wanted nothing more than to stay invisible, to keep her head down, to blend in, like just another quiet student in the background. What Northridge High wasn't built for peace, especially not when people like Jason Cole walked those same halls. Jason, the boy everyone seemed to follow, tall, athletic, with an easy grin that fooled the teachers, and a reputation that made freshmen nervous. Surrounded by his usual pack, laughing too loudly, as if the whole school belonged to him. And maybe it did. Before today? Because from the moment Amara walked past him, not even glancing his way, Jason's smile faltered. Something about the calm way she walked, about her not caring, about her not reacting. It pulled at him. It's like a challenge. "Hey!" One of his friends nudged him. "New girl. Who's she?" Jason's grin returned, but it was sharper this time. "Curious. Doesn't matter," he muttered. "She learned how things work around here." Meanwhile, Amara stopped by the main office, quietly collecting her schedule from the secretary. Her voice barely above a whisper. Polite, gentle, unnoticed. The bell rang, loud and sharp. Students hurried through the corridors, pushing, shoving, filling the air with chaos. Amara stood still, calmly reading the tiny print on the class list, mapping out her first day. Piece by piece. No rush. No panic. Her first class English, room 203. She started, walking, feeling the stares. The quick glances from people who hadn't seen her before. Some were just curious, some already judging. But Amara kept walking, letting their stares fall away like autumn leaves. But Jason wasn't done watching. From across the hall, he studied her, leaning back, calculating. The new girl wasn't shy. She was indifferent. And that didn't sit right with him in the classroom. Amara took the last seat by the window. She loved windows. The way the light spilled across her notebook, the way it made the outside world feel close. Like freedom was always waiting just beyond the glass. The teacher called her name, smiled, welcomed her softly. And just like that, her first class began, while Jason kept planning his ego, already itching. Because if there was one thing Jason Cole couldn't stand, it was someone who didn't care about him. What Jason didn't know, what no one in Northridge knew, was that Amara Jordan wasn't just a quiet girl from nowhere. She had come from the governor's mansion, raised in the heart of power. Protected by people who wore suits and spoke in calm, important voices, her mornings didn't start with regular buses, but with black SUVs, quiet security, and a mother who shook hands with presidents. But Amara never flaunted it. She didn't need to, because the strongest people don't have to shout. They can stand in silence and still be unshaken. And as the day stretched ahead, Jason Cole unknowingly picked a fight with the wrong girl. The second bell rang, sharp tone bouncing through the crowded corridors. As students flowed like restless rivers through Northridge High, swirling, moving, loud, messy, Amara Jordan walked calmly through it all. Her backpack sat comfortably against her shoulders. Her footsteps light, her gaze steady, fixed on the slip of paper guiding her to her next class. Social studies. Room 108. She made no effort to rush, no effort to smile at strangers, and that unsettled people. It's more than they realized. In schools like Northridge, it's allowed. Ones ruled, the flashy ones thrived. But Amara was none of those things. She was still quiet, but untouched by the chaos swirling around her, and Jason Cole didn't like it. From the other end of the hallway, Jason leaned casually against his locker, his arms crossed, his grin. Returning, "Watch this," he whispered to his friend beside him. As Amara passed by, one of Jason's sidekicks stuck his foot out, subtle, quick, thinking no one would notice. But Amara noticed. Her foot paused, her step shifted, and she stepped over the trap. Effortless, graceful, without even glancing back. Jason's grin tightened. The hallway quieted, just for a heartbeat. Some students blinked in surprise. Some even smiled softly, quietly impressed. But Jason wasn't finished. Later in the cafeteria, the lunchroom buzzed with noise, trays clattering, conversations blending into a dull roar. Amara stood at the end of the food line, patient, quiet, her tray balanced neatly in her hands. Jason watched her, calculating, with a practiced smirk. He moved through the tables, his group following. Behind, like loyal shadows, he accidentally bumped into her, just enough to knock the apple from her tray. It rolled, soft thuds against the floor, stopping near a group of giggling students. A few nearby students paused, watching, expecting anger, maybe tears, something loud, something dramatic. But Amara simply bent down, picked up the apple, her movements smooth, unhurried, her expression calm, unborrowed. She sat down at an empty corner table, her posture straight, her eyes soft but distant, so their foolishness didn't deserve her time. Jason frowned, for a brief second, confusion flashing in his eyes. Wasn't she supposed to react? Wasn't that how this worked? Bullies like him were used to fear, to panic, to power, but Amara showed none and far away. Beyond the lunchroom walls, through hidden lenses in security rooms, men in quiet suits watched, documenting, reporting to someone much more powerful. Because while the school played childish games, the governor's office remained alert, always protecting Amara from afar, ready but silent. After lunch, in history class, Jason tried again. A crumpled note, childish insults, slid onto Amara's desk. She unfolded. It read it, smiled, then calmly folded it back, placed it in her bag, and continued writing her notes. No reaction, no drama, only quiet, controlled grace. And around her, little by little, the air began to shift. Some students frowned at Jason's behavior. Some whispered questioning. Some glanced at Amara, wondering who she really was. Jason sat back, frustrated, confused, his confidence cracking, because nothing was working. And Amara remained, unshaken, because she had learned long ago. Of the governor's mansion, that power doesn't have to roar. To be felt sometimes, it only needs to endure patiently until the world notices, and very soon Northridge High would notice. Amara walked through Northridge High as calm as ever, her chin slightly raised, her footsteps light, never rushed, never loud around her. The halls whispered. Watching her, watching Jason, waiting for something to happen. Jason felt it too. He stood at his usual spot by the vending machines, hands stuffed into his pockets, his grin no longer easy, no longer careless. His friends shuffled beside him, quieter now, unsure, because something was changing, something none of them could quite explain. Amara was supposed to be weak. She was supposed to break, supposed to flinch, supposed to fear him, but day after day, prank after prank. Jason was met with the same quiet eyes, same soft indifference, as if his bullying meant nothing. And in truth, it didn't, because Amara had known far bigger storms, far heavier burdens, than anything these hallways could throw her way. After the last class, Amara sat beneath the tall oak tree by the sports field, her journal resting in her lap, her pen gliding across the pages, thoughts flowing like poetry, soft, steady. Jason watched from a distance, his jaw tight, frustration stirring in his chest. "Come on, man." One of his friends muttered, "She's making you look soft." Jason's pride prickled, his ego, itching to remind everyone who ruled these halls. But Amara was already winning, without even trying. Inside the school office, Principal Dawson stared at the latest report on his desk. Multiple complaints, all circling the same name. Jason Cole, and attached were discreet emails sent from a government office downtown. Firm, polite, but clear. Senator Naomi Jordan, Amara's mother, had eyes everywhere in gym class. Coach Rudd watched closely. He's no longer amused by Jason's antics. He's no longer blind to the quiet mistreatment that had slipped through unnoticed for too long. Amara tied her shoelaces, adjusted her ponytail, and ran laps around the field, her breathing calm, her pace easy. Jason tried to block her path, but Coach's whistle blew sharp and loud. Out of the way, Cole, Coach barked, tone serious, authoritative, eyes narrowing. Jason blinked. Stunned, his dominance cracked just a little more. After practice, as Amara left through the side gate, a sleek black SUV pulled up, its windows tinted, engine silent but strong. Jason's eyes followed, confusion mixing with curiosity. Who was this girl, really? Amara leaned back. Her security guard, Officer Reynolds, glanced at her through the mirror. "All good today, Miss Jordan?" His voice calm, gentle, protective. Amara smiled softly, her voice smooth, peaceful. "Better than yesterday," Reynolds smiled back, knowing well the school wouldn't stay the same for long. Because sometimes a person didn't have to speak loudly to be heard. Sometimes silence, grace, and quiet strength could shift the very ground beneath the loudest voices, and Amara was doing just that. By Thursday morning, the sky hung soft and gray over Northridge High, clouds drifting like cotton, air cool and still. The kind of morning where the world seemed to hold its breath. Amara Jordan stepped out of the sleek black SUV, its backpack resting lightly over one shoulder, her braids falling neatly, her steps slow, steady, graceful inside the tall school building. The rhythm of another day began, bells ringing, doors opening, laughter filling the air. But underneath it all, quiet shift was unfolding. Jason Cole leaned against his locker, arms folded, eyes sharp. His grin no longer confident, but curious, restless. The girl, the quiet girl who refused to be shaken, had become something. More than a target, more than a new student. She had become presence. The hallways no longer whispered about her with mockery. They whispered with interest, maybe even respect. Jason's friends didn't laugh as easily, even his usual group. The ones who always stood behind him grew quieter, glancing away, certain at first period. A simple prank was S.E.T., a water bottle, uncapped, placed carefully on Amara's chair, waiting to spill. Jason watched, waiting for the crack, waiting for the stumble, but Amara entered. Soft footsteps, calm eyes. She noticed it immediately. The glistening puddle, the childish trick. Without a word, without a glance, toward Jason's corner. She calmly moved her chair aside, found a dry spot, sat down, and opened her notebook, as if nothing had happened. The teacher noticed. The classmates noticed. The first time, quiet disapproval stirred around Jason. Soft head shakes, silent frowns. Later, in the cafeteria, Jason tried again. As Amara walked by, a whisper carried through the crowd. A sneering comment about her clothes, her hair, something cruel, something designed to sting. But Amara smiled lightly, not with bitterness, but with peace. She sat by the tall windows, sunlight dancing across her table, unpacking. Her lunch slowly, eating, calmly, quietly around her. Small changes grew. 2 girls from the soccer team, usually too shy to speak, sat closer to her table. A boy from chemistry class offered her a polite nod. Amara didn't say much, didn't try to gather attention, but her silence, her quiet strength, was drawing people in, changing the flow of energy within those noisy walls. In the main office, Principal Dawson glanced over the weekly incident reports. Jason's name appeared again, but this time, there was a handwritten note from the governor's liaison, reminding the school board, in the gentlest, most professional way, that respect and fairness must be enforced equally. For every student, at the end of the day, Amara walked to the waiting SUV, Officer Reynolds opening the door for her, protective. Patient Jason stood by the steps, watching, heart unsettled, because for the first time, he realized, whoa. She wasn't playing his game, and because of that, she was winning. Amara leaned back in her seat, the gentle hum of the engine, relaxing, her hands resting loosely in her lap. "You okay, ma'am?" Reynolds asked softly. Amara's lips curled into a soft smile. "Very okay," she whispered, her voice like calm waters. "Sometimes it takes silence to change." The world and Northridge High, without realizing, was changing. One quiet girl was making the loudest noise. Without raising her voice at all, Friday arrived with a soft golden light, stretching across the lawns of Northridge High, wrapping the world in a cozy morning glow. The air, smelled faintly of fresh grass and warm pavement. Sneakers scuffed quietly along tiled floors. Backpacks slung lazily. Teenagers floating through their morning routines. But something beneath the surface had shifted. Amara Jordan moved through the hallways like a calm breeze, quiet but undeniable. Her presence no longer ignored, no longer invisible, settled into the air, making heads turn, making conversations pause. Jason Cole watched. He leaned against the gym doors, arms crossed, chin slightly raised, his usual arrogance, shaken. His friends loitered nearby, their laughter unsure, their glances quick and uncomfortable. Inside the gymnasium, a loud whistle blew, bouncing sharply against high ceilings. Coach Marshall, a stocky man with a deep voice, who rarely noticed quiet students, called out names, signing teams for basketball practice. Amara placed her bag gently on the benches, laced her shoes, stood quietly at the edge of the court. Her fingers adjusted the cuffs of her sleeves, her stance relaxed, calm. "Ready?" Jason's group chuckled to each other.
Ice.
Rolling, they expected Amara to fumble, to embarrass herself, to fold under the weight of eyes watching. But the game began, and something unexpected unfolded. Amara moved like water, smooth, silent, precise. She didn't push, didn't shove, didn't raise her voice, yet she glided across the court, intercepting passes, making sharp, clean shots, reading the game. It's quiet confidence. Coach Marshall paused, his whistle hovering between his lips, eyes narrowing, focused. Jason charged, rough, clumsy, his pride heavy on his shoulders. But Amara had sidestepped with ease, her calm, unshaken, her steps uncontrolled. By the end of the game, Jason's chest heaved with exhaustion, his ego bruised. Quick calm, barely winded, her soft eyes steady. Coach blew the final whistle, the gym falling into silence. Well. His deep voice echoed. "Seems like we've been underestimating some talent around here." Heads turned, eyes widened. Whispers spread. like soft ripples in still water. Jason's jaw clenched, his fists curling, but deep down, something unfamiliar stirred within him. Recognition after class. Coach Marshall called Amara aside, his expression respectful, not demanding, but inviting. "You've got some real skill, young lady. Think about joining the after-school teams," his tone. Friendly, encouraging. Amara smiled, small, graceful. "I'll think about it, Coach," she replied softly, her voice carrying warmth, without needing volume. Meanwhile, in the administrative office, Principal Dawson updated the governor's office, his tone more attentive, his manner more careful. Because the quiet girl wasn't just holding her own, she was standing tall. She was commanding attention through grace, not force. As Amara left the gym, her sneakers tapping gently, students glanced her way, softer smiles, lighter nods. Even Jason stayed silent, watching, learning, feeling, his false sense of control slipping. Little by little, the black SUV waited outside, Officer Reynolds ready, protective. Steady, Amara leaned back, letting the soft hum of the car ease her into peace. Because some victories don't come with shouting. They come with quiet persistence, with calm defiance, dignity that refuses to be broken. And in just 5 days, Northridge High had started to learn the quiet girl wasn't so quiet after all. Monday arrived with a softer mood across Northridge High. The same brick walls stood tall. The same morning bells rang sharp and clear. But something in the air was calmer, lighter, different. Amara Jordan stepped through the main doors, her pace unhurried, her eyes soft, her expression peaceful. She carried herself. It's like a quiet current, strong enough to shape stone. Without needing to make noise, the whispers in the hallways shifted, not the sharp-edged whispers of gossip, but gentler, curious ones. "Who is she? Did you see her in gym last week? She doesn't care what anyone says." Amara heard them, but smiled inwardly, letting the words float past her, like tiny leaves in a stream. Her first class was biology. Room 210. She sat by the window, sunlight catching the tiny gold beads woven into her braids, the light creating little halos, dancing softly across her notebook. Jason Cole sat 2 rows behind. His usual group, quieter now, their restless energy tamed their laughter, hesitant. Jason's eyes lingered on Amara. Longer than before, his jokes had fallen flat, his pranks had failed, and his crowd was drifting. At lunch, the change became clearer. Amara sat in her usual corner, her tray simple, a sandwich, a bottle of water. A quiet book open beside her. But this time, a girl from the debate team approached first. A kind smile, asking, "Mind if I sit here?" Then a boy from math class, polite, respectful, joining the table, followed by 2 more students, curious, each wanting to be near the calm instead of the chaos. Amara welcomed them with the same quiet grace, answering softly, listening kindly, never rushing, never pushing. Jason watched from across the cafeteria, his own table, emptier than usual. His jokes met with awkward silences, his pranks ignored, and even his closest friends glanced toward Amara's table more than they glanced at him in the teacher's lounge. Conversations began to change to Mrs. Keller. The literature teacher mentioned how Amara always turned in thoughtful essays. Coach Marshall spoke of her natural skill, her steady discipline. Even Principal Dawson adjusted his tone. Whenever Amara's name came up, his posture straighter, his words careful that afternoon. In the principal's office, an email glowed on the computer screen. From the governor's office, short, professional, but with weight behind every word. "Appreciate your attention to a safe, fair environment for all students. We believe Northridge High has the opportunity to model excellence." Principal Dawson swallowed, shoulders a little stiffer. Underneath the smooth lines lay a quiet, unmistakable reminder. Amara Jordan mattered at the final bell. Students flooded into the hallways, lockers slamming, conversations swirling. Jason leaned against the stair rail, watching as Amara walked past. For the first time, didn't speak. He didn't jeer, or scoff, or scheme. He stayed, quiet, unsure, and Amara walked by her heart. Light her confidence, undisturbed, because she knew, not a doubt. The ripples had begun. Small, soft, but soon. It's impossible to ignore. Northridge High was learning day by day that the quietest person could lead the loudest change. By midweek, the rhythm of Northridge High felt unmistakably different. No announcements were made, no banners were hung, and yet the atmosphere was softer, calmer, as though the building itself had taken a deep breath. Amara Jordan walked through the main corridor, as she always did, shoulders relaxed, gaze soft, backpack resting lightly, not seeking attention, but drawing it nonetheless. Something curious was happening. In these walls, Jason Cole sat at his usual table in the cafeteria, but it wasn't quite the same. His crowd had shrunk. The usual laughter had quieted. A few of his so-called friends now hesitated, eyes flickering toward other tables, toward Amara's corner, where quiet kindness seemed to gather. Jason felt it, like a slow itch beneath his skin, the strange, unsettling feeling of losing something he had always taken for granted. During chemistry class, the teacher announced a group project, the seating rearranged, names called, and for the first time, Jason and Amara sat side by side, side by side. The classroom felt quieter than usual. Students subtly turning their heads, curious, watching, listening. Jason shifted. Uncomfortable, his usual arrogance feeling misplaced, awkward. Amara simply opened her notebook and, resting between her fingers, her posture composed. There were no sharp words, no glares, no cold shoulders, only quiet professionalism, soft-spoken responses, steady focus. Jason mumbled the first apology of his life, awkward, forced, but real. Sorry, about before, his voice lower, less certain. Amara's gaze lifted, eyes meeting his, warm, steady. Her smile, gentle, forgiving. "It's fine," she whispered, her voice like calm water, easing tension, smoothing edges. And just like that, the air shifted again. In gym, Coach Marshall partnered Amara and Jason for drills. Jason, hesitant at first, realized something. She wasn't showing off. She wasn't trying to embarrass him. She was simply excellent, focused. He learned, matching her pace, improving his rhythm, shedding some of his reckless pride. In the faculty room, the teachers talked, noticing the transformation. A subtle ripple that had started from one quiet girl, spreading through noisy halls, softening rough corners. By the end of the day, something remarkable unfolded in the cafeteria. Amara sat at her usual table, her small circle of quiet admirers growing. Jason passed by, paused, and without fanfare, dropped a folded apology note on her table. No laughter, no crowd, no scene, just respect. Amara opened it later, a brief, clumsy, but sincere apology. Didn't realize you were different. Respect, she smiled. Faint, but true, because sometimes even the loudest can learn from the quietest, and that was the tipping point. From that day, something new began at Northridge High, not through punishment, or anger, or confrontation, but through quiet power, through silent strength, through calm that could not be broken. and at the center stood Amara, steady, peaceful, changing everything, without ever raising her voice. A soft breeze kissed the early morning sky. Clouds brushed aside like gentle whispers. As Amara Jordan stepped onto the familiar grounds of Northridge High, head held steady, footsteps soft, calm wrapping around her like a quiet shield. Inside, students moved around in little groups, voices softer, movements lighter. The echo of hallway footsteps is no longer filled with fear, but curiosity. By now, everyone knew her name. Not because she shouted it, not because she demanded it, but because her calm, her quiet dignity spoke louder than any noise ever could. In literature class, Mrs. Keller's voice echoed warmly, "Amara, would you be interested in leading our book presentation next week?" Heads turned, Jason's included. A few months ago, no one would have dared offer the new girl, especially the quiet black girl, such an opportunity. Amara's soft nod, a small smile, and a whispered, "I'd be honored," floated through the room, bringing a peaceful hush over the class at lunch. Her table was full, but never loud, filled with soft laughs, respectful nods, conversations about books, sports, future dreams. Jason sat across the cafeteria. His once dominant table, smaller, quieter. His world had shifted, and he knew it. During history, the teacher spoke about civil movements, about those who fought back without violence, without aggression, but with poise and quiet persistence. Jason glanced toward Amara, quiet realization blooming inside him in the main office. Principal Dawson met with Mrs. Keller, Coach Marshall, and a few other teachers. Discussions flowed softly. How she's changed the mood here. How even the rowdiest boys quiet down around her. How teachers feel less tension. In classrooms, behind the glass doors, the secretary printed a fresh set of community volunteer programs suggested by Amara Jordan. At gym, Jason found himself naturally walking beside Amara. Conversations simple, honest, without sarcasm, without pride. "Coach says you got quick feet," Jason admitted, almost sheepish. Amara's smile, warm, easy. "You're not bad yourself, just needs a little focus." Jason chuckled, the sound softer than before, less forced, it's more real. And in those moments, respect blossomed. Quiet, genuine. Like wildflowers after spring rain, the governor's office received another report. This time, it wasn't about complaints or incidents, but progress. Kindness, change, at dismissal. Officer Reynolds leaned against the black SUV, his gaze scanning calmly, nodding when Amara appeared. "How was your day, Miss Jordan?" Amara's reply, a soft glow in her eyes. "Better than any before," 'cause now the halls didn't feel hostile. They felt open, the stairs, and weren't judgmental. They were curious. The laughter wasn't mocking. It was shared. And Jason, the boy who once made her his target, now learned. Listened and changed. Not through force. Not through lectures, but through the simplest, most powerful thing of all. Through quiet, unshakable grace. And every step Amara took reshaped the world around her like gentle ripples, spreading, reaching, soft, but unstoppable. Soft gold of autumn light stretched across Northridge High, windows glowing, lockers shimmering faintly. As the school settled into a quieter rhythm, shaped by gentler moments, by softer voices, by respect that had begun to grow, Amara Jordan moved through it all, quiet as always, calm, steady. But her presence spoke volumes. No longer invisible, no longer overlooked. Now, when she walked through the hallway, students smiled. Teachers nodded. And the air felt lighter inside the principal's office. Principal Dawson sat behind his desk, reviewing the latest student reports. His expression, thoughtful. Lines of worry from months ago, replaced by quiet pride. There was a knock. "Come in," he said, his voice Gentler than usual, Amara stepped in, her backpack resting lightly, her posture slightly relaxed, respectful, her quiet strength. Filling the room like soft sunlight, Amara Dawson greeted, gesturing toward his seat. "Thank you for coming." She sat, poised, calm, waiting patiently. "I wanted to speak with you," he continued, voice calm, about something important, something positive. He leaned forward, hands clasped, his tone warm. "This school has changed since you arrived. You've shown us that real strength doesn't need to shout, that kindness is powerful." Amara's lips curved into a soft smile, her heart warm, but her face humble, quiet. Dawson continued, "Next week we're holding the annual leadership assembly, and I would like you to speak." Eyes lifted, calm, but surprised. "I know you don't like the spotlight," Dawson said understandingly, "but your story, your example, could inspire many here." For a moment, Mara said nothing, just breathed in, deeply, feeling the weight of the invitation, not as pressure, but as quiet recognition, who she had become. Her reply soft. "Sure, I'll do it." Dawson smiled, quiet smile, one of respect, of admiration. Later in the library, word spread gently. "Did you hear Amara's giving a speech?" "Yeah, the quiet girl. She's not just quiet, she's different, strong, at practice." Jason Cole jogged up beside her, slower than usual, less cocky, more thoughtful. "Leadership. Assembly, huh?" Amara's glance was easy, calm, apparently so. Jason scratched his neck, awkward, but with a soft grin. "You'll do good." "People listen to you," Amara's answer, a simple nod. Her expression, peaceful, steady, because she had learned, from her mother, from her own quiet journey, that sometimes the smallest voice can make the biggest difference. When it speaks from the heart at the end of the day. As she stepped into the familiar black SUV, Officer Reynolds smiled at her through the rearview mirror. "Something good happened today, huh?" Amara rested her head back, braids soft against her jacket, her heart. "Peaceful, yes," she whispered, eyes closing gently. "Very good." Outside, the world kept moving, busy, noisy, rushing, but within Amara's heart, everything was still, calm, and quietly. Powerful, the day of the leadership assembly arrived with soft winds brushing gently through the school grounds. Tall trees swaying slightly, their leaves whispering secrets to the early morning light. Inside Northridge High, the atmosphere felt different, not tense, not restless, but expectant, like something special was about to happen. Amara Jordan stood quietly at the back of the large auditorium, her fingers resting lightly against the smooth wood of the chair, her breathing calm, steady, her heart warm, but not nervous. Her mother's words echoed softly in her memory, spoken gently the night before. "Speak from your quiet strength, Amara, not to impress, but to remind. Kindness leaves the deepest mark." The room filled quickly, rows of students filing in, teachers whispering, the occasional laugh from the back rows. But most watched the stage. Waiting, Jason Cole sat somewhere in the middle rows, legs tucked back, chin resting on his hand. Different from the boy who once ruled the hallways through noise, through mockery. Now he waited, silent, attentive, wondering. The principal walked up first, his voice calm, welcoming, and now Principal Dawson smiled. Someone who, in just a few months, taught us all about quiet leadership, about strength that doesn't shout. "Please welcome Amara Jordan." A soft hush fell, rippling through the auditorium. Amara walked, unhurried, each step steady, each breath light, her shoes tapping softly. Her presence calm, yet magnetic. She stood behind the wooden podium, her hands resting gently on its smooth surface, her gaze lifting. It's not to intimidate, but to connect. The microphone adjusted itself, but she didn't lean forward. She spoke softly, but every ear listened. Some people believe you have to be loud to be strong. Her words flowed gently, the room completely silent. That power comes from noise, from control, from pushing others down. Mouse moved across the crowd, catching familiar faces, curious eyes, softened glances, but real strength, she continued, her voice steady. Soothing is quiet. It is found in those who keep going, when mocked, in those who remain kind, when pushed, in those who choose calm. Jason's chest tightened, hearing words that felt meant for him and for everyone who had ever chosen cruelty. Feel powerful, I used to believe. Being invisible was the only way to survive. Amara said softly, her fingers relaxing against the podium. But here, I realized being silent doesn't mean being unseen. The teachers listened, some blinking away quiet pride, others glancing at students who once laughed too easily, realizing Amara's voice remained gentle. Kindness, quietness, patience. They are not weaknesses, they are choices. Choices that hold more power than anger, than fear, than cruelty. And in that room, where hundreds sat, not a whisper moved, only the sound of her voice. Calm, unshaken, filled the space. Thank you for noticing me, she finished, with a small, peaceful smile, and I hope you'll notice others, too. Then she stepped back. No cheers. No thunderous applause. Just soft, genuine claps. Rising slowly. From the front rows, spreading. Becoming stronger. But never wild. Just real. Respectful. Jason stood. Without realizing, clapping, his head bowed slightly. Not in shame, but in quiet admiration. That day, Northridge High changed. Not because of noise or punishment, but because of one quiet girl who taught them the loudest. Lessons are whispered, not shouted. The day after the assembly, the school felt softer. Students who once rushed now slowed their steps. Conversations shifted from sarcasm to curiosity. And laughter felt warmer, lighter, less sharp. Amara Jordan walked the familiar hallways with her usual calm rhythm. But now her quiet steps carried weight. Quiet, respect following wherever she went, near her locker. Two freshmen smiled, shy but genuine. Hi, Amara, one whispered, as if greeting someone important. Amara smiled softly back, her heart calm, steady, simply nodding. Though she'd always belonged. Jason Cole no longer leaned lazily against the lockers, his shoulders less proud, but strangely lighter, as though shedding the heavy coat of arrogance, finally allowed him to breathe. That morning, instead of cracking jokes, Jason walked to Amara, not with swagger, but with ease. No crowd, just sincerity, hey, he said, his voice a little awkward, but real. That speech, it was good. Amara closed her locker gently, looking up with soft kindness. Thank you.
Hey.
Jason scratched the back of his neck, then surprised himself. You made me think, about how I acted. Amara's smile was calm, without judgment. Thinking was the first step. In literature class, Mrs. Keller beamed with pride. Never seen students so engaged, she told Amara after class. Your words reached them at gym. Coach Marshall watched Jason hustle, actually trying, not just showing off, but improving, learning, becoming better. And Amara, her quiet presence, changed even the loudest corners, the roughest crowds. It was simple. Dignified grace in the teacher's lounge. Principal Dawson shared. We didn't discipline our way to peace. We listened and learned from her. Even the janitor, Mr. Cole, tipped his hat with a grin as Amara passed. Things come from quiet hearts, he whispered. Later that week, The governor's office sent a brief message. We see the growth in Northridge High. We appreciate the leadership Amara brings. Officer Reynolds waited by the curb, greeting Amara with a proud smile. Look at you, changing the world, one quiet day at a time. Amara smiled back. Not changing, just reminding that kindness was always here. And as the black SUV drove past the school, Amara leaned against the window, her eyes soft, her heart full. Northridge High would never be the same because of quiet lessons that whispered. Instead of shouted because of gentle power that healed. Instead of hurt because one quiet girl showed everyone that silence can sometimes echo louder than any voice. Another week passed, and with it, the quiet transformation of Northridge High continued. Steady as a river carving through stone, morning sunlight filtered through the tall glass windows. The sounds of lockers and footsteps softened, not because teachers enforced it, but because students simply followed the calmer rhythm set by one quiet girl, Amara Jordan. Stepped through the entrance, like a soft wind after a long storm, gentle, refreshing, and quietly powerful. At lunch, something different happened. It wasn't Amara choosing a quiet corner. It was the cafeteria shifting around her tables. Once divided by cliques, were now. Blending, the debate team sat beside athletes. The drama club chatted with the soccer girls, and Jason Cole, whose pride once kept him at the loudest table, now sat comfortably among friends, not followers. Today, he chose to join Amara's table. He approached. With no jokes, no clever lines, just a simple, mind if I sit here? Amara's smile, warm and welcoming. Of course, and like that. The old walls between students thinned, like mist under morning light. Mrs. Keller watched from the hallway, her heart swelling. Something special is happening here, she whispered to Coach Marshall. Coach nodded. It started. When one girl refused to stoop low and stood tall, quietly in class. Discussions deepened. Students listened more. Interrupted. Less, not because they feared punishment, because they learned respect. Through example, Jason began raising his hand more often, asking thoughtful questions, encouraging others. His loudness replaced with steady participation. During an afternoon student council meeting, Principal Dawson smiled as Amara calmly led the session, introducing new programs, peer support groups, ideas to make the school gentler, kinder, more human. Teachers, parents, even other schools began asking. What changed at Northridge? The answer was always simple. A black girl who didn't fight back with fists, but with grace, who didn't yell, but stood, who didn't seek revenge, but chose to inspire in the evenings. Amara rode home. Officer Reynolds often asked, "Feel like you've made a difference?" And every time, Amara smiled softly. I think I just reminded them who they really were, before anger, before noise, before fear. Because sometimes the greatest changes aren't loud revolutions, but soft, consistent ripples, moving gently through hearts, making people kinder. And Amara knew this was just the beginning. Northridge High had learned to listen, feel, to respect. All, from the quietest girl in the room. It was a peaceful Thursday morning. Sunlight streaming gently through the classroom blinds, when an unexpected hush swept across Northridge High. Amara Jordan walked into her first class, unaware that outside, a sleek black car pulled up in front of the main building. Within minutes, quiet murmurs filled the hallways.
Someone.
Important is here. Is that who I think it is? Principal Dawson stood straighter than usual, adjusting his tie nervously, as the tall, poised woman in a smart navy suit stepped through the front doors. The governor's special aide, with kind eyes and an unmistakable air of importance. She walked through the halls, observing, listening, noticing the gentle shifts the calm atmosphere, the students smiling kinder. By midday, an announcement came through the speakers. Amara Jordan, please report to the main office. Heads turned, Jason looked up from his notebook, raising an eyebrow, but smiling softly, knowing this moment was well earned. Amara, calm as ever, walked the familiar path, her footsteps quiet, but her heart steady. Inside the office, Principal Dawson stood, his expression warm, proud, and beside him, the governor's aide. Beaming, Miss Jordan, the aide began, voice soft but commanding, on behalf of the governor and this community, we wanted to thank you for showing everyone what quiet leadership looks like. Amara blinked, surprised, her fingers resting gently on the edge of the desk. We've heard about the calm you've brought, about the respect you've earned, without shouting, without fighting back, but simply by standing tall, the aide continued, in her hands. A framed certificate, gleaming softly under the office lights, Northridge High is changing because of your quiet courage. Amara's breath deepened, her heart swelling, not with pride, but gratitude. She accepted the certificate, both hands. Her voice, warm but quiet. Thank you for seeing me outside. Whispers grew, students gathering, teachers smiling, and Officer Reynolds leaned against the black SUV. Grinning proudly, Jason joined the students outside, clapping softly, his respect no longer hidden but sincere. Earned that afternoon, as Amara stood at the top of the school steps, sunlight framing her like a halo. She realized something powerful. Quiet was never weakness. It was strength in its purest, most enduring form. The school, the teachers, the students, even Jason, had been changed, not by punishment, not by lectures, but by a soft, consistent reminder of kindness, dignity, and quiet strength. And Amara, with her gentle heart, had become the quiet hero of Northridge High. Friday arrived with golden light, slipping between the curtains of Northridge High, wrapping the halls in a soft, peaceful glow. Amara Jordan walked through those doors, not as a new girl, not as an outsider, but as a quiet symbol of how kindness could change everything, Her footsteps, steady, soft, familiar, smiles, greeted her from every direction. Teachers, students, staff, each nod filled with quiet respect. In literature class, Mrs. Keller announced, next week we'll begin our peer mentorship program. Inspired by Amara's leadership. In the gym, Coach Marshall pinned a new quote above the door, and real strength whispers, it doesn't shout at lunch. Amara's table grew even more diverse.
Students.
From every background, every circle came together, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Jason Cole sat beside her, different from who he once was. A grin softer, his voice calmer, You changed this place. Amara smiled. Not me. All of us. Jason chuckled, shaking his head. You just reminded us who we could be in the principal's office. Dawson looked over the week's reports. Fewer fights, fewer complaints, more kindness, more collaboration, smiled to himself. One student. Ripple, one quiet change. At dismissal, Officer Reynolds waited, leaning casually against the black SUV, sunglasses perched, watching the peaceful school grounds. Ready, Miss Jordan? Amara nodded, stepping into the car, her heart full, knowing her journey was only beginning. As the SUV drove away, the school behind her stood calmer, brighter, better, not because of noise, but because of quiet strength. Amara leaned back, eyes soft. The trees passed by, because she understood now. True power wasn't loud, it was found. Its stillness, in grace, in dignity, in choosing peace. Even when you could choose war, Northridge High had learned, and her quiet legacy would echo through its halls. For many, many years to come, And somewhere in every corner, quiet, girl or boy would realize they too could stand tall, without ever raising their voice. And with that peaceful thought, Amara closed her eyes, letting herself drift into gentle, restful, quiet sleep. The end.